I hear a lot of people saying, of course, I don't subscribe to this naming offerings and offering called an Isaac offering, and I don't subscribe to that. And like I told you, I don't want to oppose nobody. But hear this. Someone came in and said, when you give an Isaac, and it's listen, it's a very reasonable thing to say. Because if a preacher says, give an Isaac offering, that means if you give your Isaac offering is 1,000, which I don't do here, and go and sit down, you are wrong. Because Abraham gave it, and he went and collected it. So that means if you give a $2,000 Isaac offering, put it there until the preacher sees it. Oh, yes. Then you go and collect it.
The next time somebody says, come to the altar, tell him, I don't need it. I have a bigger altar. If you need an altar, come. I am the altar. The next time a preacher tells you, bring your Isaac to the altar. Abraham took his Isaac to the altar. The next time a preacher tells you, no pain, no gain, bring your Isaac to the altar. Tell him, Abraham only took Isaac to the altar once. And when he brought Isaac to the altar, he took him from the altar back home. So welcome to Damaging Your Ignorance. I'm sure this Isaac offering, first fruit, giant offering, and all of these are part of the prosperity teachings. Isaac offering. Now, most pastors will tell you Isaac offerings without continuation of what happened to that Isaac offering. Well, we have here Hubert Angel and we have ABEL DAMINA. You're also going to listen to others on these Isaac offerings. Those that are spiritual sons of prosperity preachers and teachers. Oftentimes, they will continuously repeat what their spiritual father is saying. After all, for you to say, I want to submit under the mentorship or the tutelage, or just to be recognized under a particular doctrine, a particular man before God, then you know that you have to embrace everything that your spiritual father is saying. You cannot go against your spiritual father. Now, the question that begs for an answer is this. Is there anything like Isaac offering after Isaac was offered and God said, I would rather not take a human being, but this is what I have provided to you to sacrifice on that altar? Talking about altar, you heard what ABEL DAMINA said. Once a pastor says, bring this to my altar, bring yourself there and say, man of God, what altar? I am the altar. Where should I bring my altar to? A lot of misconception, misinterpretation of the Bible. It has been there over time. That is the reason why certain students of the scripture took time to study the original language that the Bible was written, so as to understand, so as to get context of it. A lot of people have been played here and there like a ball on a pool of water. Why is this so? That is as a result of the continuous repetition of the same thing in some of the Bible schools. And of course, what else do you expect if you went to a Bible school and you were told this is what it is? Definitely when you have your own church, your own ministry, you will continuously repeat the same fallacy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us listen more. It is getting serious. This is battle to finish, because the daddy geos that are against non-tithers, against non-seeders, they are not happy with this. And we've come to a point, moment where there is nothing else to hide. We've come to the moment of truth. And we've come to that era, that generation, where everyone wants to find out about the truth. I'm kind of thinking that the prophetic might be going away because people want proof. They just don't want some kind of movie that they cannot determine the beginning of it, the middle of it, and the end of it. Let's get right into it. Do not forget to like and share. Tap on the subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell.
You didn't hear what I said. Glory! 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 He brought Isaac, and he took Isaac back. So tell the pastor, what did you say I should bring Isaac? So bring out your money, tell him this is Isaac. Have a good day. Because Abraham will bring the Isaac and take the Isaac back home.
But the problem is, that is not a complete revelation. It is exciting. We can laugh about it. We can say, wow, man of God, you hit it on the mark, but you're wrong. Why? Because here is what the Bible says. God provided the offering. So if I put my 2,000, I need to make sure that God has gotten a replacement of that before I take it. No, you missed that one. I can't just go and collect my Isaac offering. I also need to hear what God is saying, because the offering was mine to give. But then God had to provide the lamb to Abraham. So since I put my 2,000 there to sacrifice, God has to give me another amount for me to take back my Isaac. So it's not complete to just say, take your Isaac back. After all has been said and done, I don't believe in Isaac, a prosperity offering. This one, no. But you cannot preach this message and be incomplete and still think you are worshiping God. No, you're not. See, there's a lot that is happening out there.
Preaching here, if you're understanding, shout, I hear, I hear. Don't let any man of God use your money for breakfast in the name of an altar. No man of God has a bigger altar. Your altar is the biggest altar, because your altar is the altar where Christ himself.
So there is a saying that givers never lack. So I want to ask you, do givers really not lack? So I want to put it the other way around. Givers actually lack. Or let me put it another way. Giving does not necessarily make you rich. Okay? Take for example the widow that Jesus praised in the gospel. Did you hear that she became wealthy because of giving? And if you read 2 Corinthians chapter 8, here's St. Paul talking about the Macedonians, say in their intense poverty, they were still generous. Despite their intense poverty, they were still generous. That means giving did not change their situation, but the joy of the Lord overflowed from their heart, and they supported, So, givers can lack, and that's why it's good to know how to give with discretion, right? The church is not it's not a Ponzi scheme where you give 100,000 today and you receive 500,000 tomorrow. It doesn't work like that with God. So somebody did an experiment. I read it in a book written by Adam Grant. I think the name of the book is Rethink, or Think Twice or something like that. I can't remember the title right now. Where a survey was made, a research was made, and discovered that as much people who give and succeed, there are also as much people who give and they do not succeed. So what is the difference between those who give and succeed and those who give and they don't succeed? Those who give and succeed, they know when to give and when to take. They know how to give and how to take. So they know when to give and when to take a break from giving, right? So Don't take your capital, don't give your capital. You have a capital in business, you go and give it in the church so that God will multiply it and all of that. This is you giving when you should, or giving what you shouldn't give. Don't think that donating your capital, sowing your capital as a seed in a church will make some divine multiplication to happen for you. It doesn't happen like that, you know. So support your church, support every noble cause you can, but remember that what you give is like a fruit. It's from your profits, from your food. Don't use your capital. Invest in the right things and all of that, you know. Some people also, there are some Christians who are in the habit of, they believe, they say, scatter your seed. So this ministry comes up today, you put something. The another ministry comes up, you put there. Or you take more than 20 ministries, you just, you know, share and put, hoping that if miracle doesn't happen from one, it will happen from this. Let me tell you, if you have siblings who are doing business, even if it is roadside kiosk they have, you know, all those little money you are scattering with a superstitious belief that if miracle doesn't happen from this, it will happen to this other one. Go and put it in their business. Give it to them as loan. I'm giving you this 50,000. Repay me small. Your own siblings, people you can trust. If you do that, you are going to help their business, and you're also going to multiply your income. Then, when it is necessary, support your church. When it is necessary, support your church. Support every good cause. You are giving because God has blessed you, and you are giving for a just cause. All right? And God will still bless you more.
Anything you call prosperity, I'm the symbol. I am the evidence that God can bless you. Did you hear me? He says, stay clear from those who have false doctrine. And I started by just quoting me alone. I said, even me. If I'm no more preaching Christ, who died, who rose, who is coming again, and I'm preaching how you can become a lottery staker in the church. If you give me 1,000, you are going to get 1 million. That's not gospel. That's businessmen with clerical collar.
Somebody said to me, the Lord told him to put a seed of 1 billion in the ark.
Many are just desperate, you know, and because they are desperate, men of God take advantage of them.
It's in this church, it's not from America or Jamaica. It's from here. And I knew where he was when he came here.
It's a lie.
Oh my God. David, let me prove God. If you think I didn't prove God, I gave one. If you can get angry, I don't care. I gave God $1 million when I had no house. You think I didn't prove God? If Bible was to be written, my name would have been written. In fact, my own would have been bigger than Solomon because Solomon had money when he gave. Me, I gave when there was no house. If you think it's easy, go and give your money. $1 million. $1 million. I had no block, not even foundation. I proved God. All people talking in the teach prosperity, they better do what I did. Nobody's qualified to criticize me on prosperity until you do what I've done.
I told you that at a time, 4 of the real billionaires in Nigeria were in this family. And pride came because they were, the tithe that was coming to the main church through this family was hefty. All of a sudden, a handful of the big men, not the ones I mentioned, wrote to me and said, every month you must give to us an account of how you are spending our tithes.
Matters of monetary calculation and imputation.
Grammatical.
I said, okay. What they're asking for is all right. They're simply asking for transparency, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I say, however, I have gone through the Bible. I have not found a place where God spoke to Moses and said, every month you must give an account of the tithe of the children of Israel to them. I'm talking to you now like father and special children. Nobody had ever had this one from me before. So for 2 years, how many years? 2 solid years. Every kobo that came from this family was kept in a separate account. Let me just find out if God is bigger than the biggest, richer than the richest. It was when Ababa came. So you can check all these stories, the people involved are alive. Professor Ababa came from Ibadan. I sent him here. When I say here, we were only one branch then, just the family. And then, after he's been in the church for some months, he came to me. He said, the people are complaining. The people you asked me to go and join, they are complaining. What's the complaint? They said things are not going well. And they have found out that they offended me. It wasn't everybody that offended. It was a handful. People who thought that they are cleverer than God. And they brought problem to everybody. It will interest you to know that every one of those involved in that little group, they are no longer in the church. And they are not where they ought to be. Let me just put it like that.
Well, Hubert Angel found a way to kind of redirect. He used what they call reverse psychology on that part. He said that he is not into Isaac offerings, giant offerings, seed for this, for prosperity. He understands these things himself, even though there are times that he had preached about it. I could remember back then when I was listening to him talk in the church of his spiritual son, Shepherd Bushiri, where he gave a kind of he was actually talking about giving, even though what he was treating then was the scandal of Shepherd Bushiri, where certain people had accused him of sexual misconduct and all of that. But he said something. Then he used to have a spiritual mentor, not a father, a spiritual mentor, a Ghanaian, a prophet who is based in the US. He said something about when he gave birth to his child. It was when he gave money to his spiritual mentor, like a tithe or something, or a seed or whatever it is that he gave to his spiritual mentor. That was when his eyes became open to realize that his son was already becoming a blue baby, meaning his son was not having the proper amount of, was being deprived of oxygen. He said the umbilical cord, then his wife was pregnant, had wrapped around the neck of his child. These are what he said then. What was he trying to say? Same way as Pastor Adeboye also narrated. They come with a story, direct or indirect, and at the end of the day, it is to give you this idea of, if you don't give physically, there are certain things that you might not have access to. Now, let us look into what Hubert Angel said. He said there is no problem about you putting the money there and taking it. And in fact, it started with drop it and take it, because Isaac was dropped and was taken. But before you do so, you have to wait to see. You have to commune with God, or you have to just wait and let's see what God will bring in replacement. Meaning, if there is no replacement, you cannot take that Isaac offering. But ABEL DAMINA has made it clear that that was done once, not twice, not thrice. Ever since God gave what should be used as offering to him. That became the standard until the death of Yeshua HaMashiach that put an end to such sacrifice. But today we have this money used as sacrifice. Apart from your time, your efforts, and everything put into the ministry, money is of the utmost importance. I will not say money is not important. It takes a lot of it to run ministry successfully or even to run business successfully. But this putting a name to something to collect money from members is what he said he's not into. But somehow he's saying that you have to wait. You have to wait for God to give what you will use in replacement. Now, if we compare Isaac, a human being, to a goat or to a sheep, the difference is clear. So it means if someone is to tell you, bring Isaac offering to me, Isaac offering, definitely you're not going to bring your child. You can just take a couple of amounts from your pocket and put that down. It could be the lowest of your currency and offer that. And that's it. Putting a name to it. Isaac offering, seed, whatever you have. Now, there are people who even make it even more clearer to you. They will say something that will pain you, something that you know is heavy, that you don't want to part with normally. It is still the same Isaac offering, like something that will scratch your pocket, something that is difficult on a good day for you to offer. Bring it and put it into the basket of God. It's still the same thing. Some might even go as far as telling you, empty your bank account. And they will go at length telling you how they emptied their bank account. You heard from David Ibiyomi. He said he gave $1 million when he had no car, he had no this, he had no that. Where he got that $1 million from, I don't know. Maybe he had very, very rich people in his church back then. Well, empty your bank account. Empty your bank account. You must have heard that several times. And they say they emptied it and they sold their cars, they sold this, they sold that. The truth of the matter is this: it is possible for a cleric, what I mean is a pastor, evangelist, apostle, whatever title they all bear, it is possible for them to sacrifice as much as they claim they did, even though some of them might lie, just to compel you to give. Now, if you have been given a mandate, you are called, as it is said to be, when you have a mandate to preach, to be a full-time preacher or whatever, they say you are called. That's what they say it is. Once you have the call and it ends up being your ministry, it is your work. It is the same thing like a startup business. People put in their efforts, their money into it, and it becomes big. Some don't have sponsors at the beginning. It is the same thing with work of God. At times it's like that, not for everybody. So they put in all that they have, their card, to make sure that they are successful in this physical realm that we are in. They put in their money, they put in their time, and they become successful. And when they become successful, they now have sponsors. They have sponsors and then begin to enjoy. And then they start saying that it is because I sold, which is true. They put in all of these things to create value or to create a niche. It is true. Now, they will now tell you that you have to do the same for you to get blessings. What kind of blessings? You have to now understand the concept of I sold into it, I did this into it, and God has blessed me. Okay. Now, sow into what I have sown into for God to bless you. Now, do you get the logic? Now, what we need to question is this. I don't have anything against assisting, giving. You heard what the Reverend Father said. He's a Catholic. You heard what he said about giving. I don't have any issues with that. I will never be against you giving. It is now your business where you have decided to sow. If you sow on a rocky ground, it is left for you. If you sow on a platform that is not glorifying God, it is your issue, it is your problem. But the thing is this, that pastor probably sold his car, his children couldn't do this and that. He did all of these things to achieve, to attain, and become successful in ministry. You are sowing into his own ministry. At least on this physical earth. Are you sowing into your child? Are you sowing into your children? Are you sowing into your life? Are you putting efforts into your own life? That's another question. But if you think if you sow into his life, you will become prosperous. Well, you might not be prosperous because he sowed into his own work, into his own ministry. You are sowing into his own work. How can you be prosperous? How can you be prosperous? You are simply helping him to grow the ministry, the work that God gave to him. You helped him, which is not a bad thing. But if you think helping him, you will become more prosperous. It might not be. And it could also be that God, and these are cases that are not the same. God could prosper you so that you can be the help hand in a ministry. The ways of God are mysterious. But if you put a blanket on it and you think once they say sow a seed, Isaac offering, and first fruit, once you will become rich, go and ask yourselves how long you've been sowing the sowing and how you have been going around begging for money from unbelievers who are not even tithing. We need to understand these things and get a clearer understanding, clarity on it. What are your thoughts about what every of our guests have posited? You've heard all of them speak. You've heard about DAMINA. You've heard from the Catholic Reverend. You've heard from Ibiyomi. You've heard from every one of them. Drop your comments. And you've even heard from the Big Daddy Gio talking about people who wanted accountability. And because they wanted to know how money is being spent in church, which some churches do. Like some churches do, some denomination, let me put it that way, they do it. At the end of the year or month, they show the accounts. This is what we have done. This is what, and the pastor is saying he has looked into the Bible. He has not seen any part of the Bible where any priest has come out to say, this is what we have done. This is what we have done. This is how we went about it. This is how we've gone about it here and there. Well, this is open for a thorough understanding. Don't forget that the way God dealt with it, there are certain things that are not laws. God just decided to put in this. It's not as if this would take you to hell. God decided to put these things there so as to make sure that things are done appropriately. Are we going to say back then, because the scriptures spoke about how slaves should be handled, are we going to say that pastors are supposed to have slaves now and how they are supposed to go about it? All of a sudden, we begin to act like we have lack of understanding in certain things. I don't think there is any crime in fact, churches should be accountable. If a church is not accountable, how can you talk about a nation being accountable? There is no big issue with transparency. This is what we have done. This is what we are doing. This is what we are hoping to do. And it continues like that. But he ended up saying that they are not where they are supposed to be. Well. I don't know where they are supposed to be anyway. The matter on ground is about fleecing members, using ambiguous, using some Bible stories and manipulating them, picking and choosing, dropping and all of that, using all of them to ask people to give. Church is not a pyramid scheme where you come in and then you drop this, you get this, you drop this, you get this, and some of them will say they gave 1 million and now they are getting this and that. I've explained to you at length what this is. Whatever input you put into your work, there's a possibility of you getting a return. And if you invest in other people's work, you might get and you might not get nothing.